So when we discuss accessing ezFedGrants or how you can get access to the ezFedGrants system, we're going to be talking about a couple of things. First, we'll talk about eAuthentication. We'll talk about what is eAuthentication, how do you get access to it, and then from there we'll see that once you get that eAuthentication access, that you can then get access to what's referred to as the external portal. That's really the portal or the portion of ezFedGrants that you'll be using at whatever organization you're at. So if you're working with a university, for example, at the university level, the portal that you would use to access ezFedGrants or a lab or whatever organization that you're currently working for. Just to kind of differentiate, and just so that you're aware, there is also what's referred to as an internal ezFedGrants portal that we here over at the Department of Agriculture utilize. So your agency representatives, for example, are going to have a portion of ezFedGrants or ezFedGrants portal that they use as well that you may hear referred to as the internal portal. So there is an internal and external portal. So here we're going to be just kind of talking about, obviously, if you're not within the USDA, you're going to need that external portal access, so we'll see how you can go ahead and get that as well. So just a brief introduction. As we stated earlier, as was mentioned not that long ago, my name is, in fact, Nicholas Soto, Nick for short. I am a training specialist over here at the United States Department of Agriculture. I am a contractor working for the Office of the Chief Financial Officer. And the purpose of today's training really is to give you an overview of how to get access to ezFedGrants at this point. So after completing this course, you should be able to, at the very least, summarize the Level 2 eAuthentication process, or at least have a sense for what to expect as you go through that process. You should also be able to explain the process used to gain access to that ezFedGrants external portal that we spoke about not too long ago. And of course, as we go through things today, you should just get a general understanding of some of the additional training offerings and how to access those training materials, as well as how you can navigate to and within the ezFed. Now here we'll be taking a look at a lot of screenshots today, so please keep in mind that all of the data that we're going to look at today is really just test data for the purpose of training. Any data that you encounter, and I'll probably say this over and over and over again today, any data that you encounter in the actual system may vary depending on agency and scenario. So here, let's kick it off and talk about eAuthentication. So after completing this module on eAuthentication, you should be able to describe the eAuthentication application process, not only what the process is like, but also what is eAuthentication and why do we need it. So, what is it? What is eAuthentication? Well, eAuthentication is the system used by USDA agencies to enable individuals to obtain accounts that will allow them to access USDA web applications and services through the Internet. And this is going to include things such as submitting forms electronically, so for example, reports or claims, completing surveys online if there are any, and also checking the status of your USDA accounts. And really what eAuthentication does is it allows you, it kind of creates a more secure way for the USDA to kind of verify and authenticate your ezFedGrants access, for example. The idea being that you don't want just anybody ideally being able to access your USDA ezFedGrants account. You only want certain people to be able to do that, and one of the ways that they can not just control access, but also verify, I guess, that people are who they say they are and that they're not creating fake accounts is through the eAuthentication process. So it is important, and it is the first step to getting access to the ezFedGrants system. So what do you need to get an eAuthentication account? Well, you really need only a couple of things. The first thing you'll need is a government-issued photo ID, such as a passport or driver's license. Again, that's just to help verify that you are who you say you are. And the second thing that you'll need is a valid email address. So those are really the two things that you're going to need to get an eAuthentication account. And I think keeping that in mind, really, I think everybody should have those, and I don't think that it's too rigorous to have either of those. And so we'll see then how we can use those to get our eAuthentication account. So some things to keep in mind as we kind of talk about eAuthentication and as we go through the process here. Please keep in mind that once you've obtained a USDA Level 2 eAuthentication account, that you will be able to access the ezFedGrants home screen, where you can then request access to the ezFedGrants external portal. There is an ezFedGrants access request job aid that you can access or that you can, be able to view later on. I'll show you where you might be able, or at least I'll tell you where you might be able to view that. But please keep in mind also that I will try to make these slides available to you at the end of the training, most likely in PDF format, so that you can have these for your record. But really what that first bullet is saying is that once you get that Level 2 eAuthentication account, then you can go into the ezFedGrants system and request access there. So it's kind of a two-step process, we could say. Also keep in mind that on certain screens you may need to scroll to view additional data fields. Again, we're looking at screenshots here. So whereas we might see a screenshot of a particular portion of the screen, when you get into the live environment you may need to scroll down to view additional fields, for example. Also, and I guess the third bullet point kind of speaks to that by saying that certain screenshots may display only a portion of the screen. So again, keep in mind you might need to scroll around to actually view some of the data fields that we're talking about. Also, as I mentioned previously, data used in this procedure is a representative sample for the purpose of training. Any actual data in the system may vary based on agency and scenario, so please keep that in mind as well. So how do we get eAuthentication access, or how do we get an eAuthentication account, I guess is the real question. Well, first you can start by accessing the USDA eAuthentication home screen by going to the following web address, which should be www.eauth.usda.gov. And again, I'll endeavor to make these slides available to everybody so that you can have these for your records. But the first step basically is just you go to the eAuth site, which is eauth.usda.gov, and it should look something like this when you get there. Once you can access the site, you're going to see a link that says Create an Account, and you just want to go ahead and click on that Create an Account link. I do want to point out quickly that there are probably a couple of different places where you can do that. You'll note that within the text of the home page there is a link that says Create an Account, but you will also note on the screenshot that off to the left-hand side you're going to get a quick links section that should open up where you can then also access the Create an Account option. So there are a couple different places on the site where you can get to it, but however you do it, whichever way is easiest for you, you want to find the link that says Create an Account and go ahead and click on that. From there, you should be taken to this page that says Create an Account, Getting Started. Now what you want to do here is you will need a Level 2 eAuthentication account. So as the slide points out, you do want to go ahead and select the Register for a Level 2 account button. Now you may be saying to yourself, well, I don't have a Level 1 account. Can I just skip right to getting a Level 2 account, or will it let me get a Level 2 account if I don't have a Level 1 account yet? This is my first time ever hearing of eAuthentication. The answer to that is even if you don't already have a Level 1 eAuthentication account, you can still click on that Register for a Level 2 account button, and it will take you through the steps for both. It will first take you through the steps to get a Level 1 account, and then once that's successfully completed, it will automatically tell you what you need to do to get a Level 2 account. So even if you don't have eAuthentication yet, you can still just click on that Register for a Level 2 account button, and it'll make sure that you get both the Level 1 and the Level 2 account automatically. So you want to click on that button to register for a Level 2 account. From there, you're going to become taken to a screen that looks like this, or that is this, I guess, where it will just say Register for your account. So on the step 1 of 4, level 2 access account registration screen, you just want to enter your information into the fields that are provided. Any field in red is going to be a required field. Those fields will also be marked by an asterisk, and of course you'll need to scroll down to view all the fields. But as you can see, the majority of those fields, or all those fields, are going to be basic information such as your first name, last name, address, city, postal code, country, things like that. Once you've entered all of your information, you just want to scroll down and click the Continue button at the bottom of the screen. If any of the required fields have been left blank or completed incorrectly, you will see an error message prompting you to complete any of those fields that have been left blank or incorrectly completed. So again, keep in mind that it will just perform a quick check to make sure that you've remembered to fill out all the fields that are necessary and that you've put in the appropriate types of information in the appropriate fields. So for example, you didn't accidentally enter numbers into a field where it's asking for your name, for example. But you enter in all the information that's required, and then you hit Continue at the bottom, and it should bring you here to step 2 of 4 for your level 2 access account verification. And really step 2 is just to review the information to make sure that it's correct. So you input the information, you hit Continue, and then it's just going to ask you to review it one more time. And once you've confirmed that it's correct, you've read through everything, everything looks like it is where it's supposed to be and it looks correct, then at the bottom of the screen there should be a Submit button. You can just go ahead and click that to move forward. If you realize that maybe you accidentally entered your address in incorrectly, or you entered in a name incorrectly for yourself by mistake, there is an Edit button that you can select also to go back and change information as you need to. If your information was submitted successfully, so you review it, everything looks great, you hit that Submit button, then the system will take you to step 3 of 4, which is the Print Confirmation Email screen. Here you'll see a message explaining that you'll receive an email with instructions for completing your USDA eAuthentication account registration. Again, please keep in mind it may take up to 24 hours to receive the confirmation email. Now I know that on the screenshot that we see, it's actually telling us that it should arrive within 1 hour. I think that ideally it'll arrive within an hour, but if you don't get it within the hour, you want to give it up to 24 hours before you start to wonder what happened. It should take up to 24 hours to actually get that email. But once you receive the confirmation email, it should look something like this, the message should. You just want to follow the instructions contained in that email to complete the 4th and final portion of your USDA eAuthentication account registration. The first 2 steps will allow you to activate your eAuthentication account. And then, of course, please keep in mind that the email that we're looking at here is an example only, and that the text of the email that you receive might vary depending on, if they've made any updates like that, or if you're whatever your email account may be, for example. But the point being is that the first 2 steps are going to allow you to go ahead and activate that account by clicking on the Activate My Account link. Once you've completed steps 1 and 2 in the email, your account will finally be activated with level 1 access, and then once you log into that level 1 account, you're going to see a confirmation saying that your account has been activated with that level 1 access, and it'll give you information about the final portion of eAuthentication level 2 account registration, and that final part is, in fact, identity verification. And you'll note that here on the screenshot, down below it just says step 5 of 5 is going to be identity verification. Step 4 of 5 above tells you that your account has been activated. So really what it is the first portion of it is really you're just kind of going into a website, the eAuthentication website. You're entering in some information such as your name and address, for example. You're reviewing it for accuracy, and then you're submitting it. Once you get the email back, asking you to activate that account, you go ahead and activate it, and then it should tell you that that account has been activated, and that now you just basically need to verify your identity. And there are a couple different ways that you can do that, and we'll kind of see what those are here. So you'll note that once you confirm that your information in the system is correct and that your first name, last name, and date of birth match your government-issued photo ID, you then will go ahead and move to the final phase of that Level 2 registration. And the final phase, as we mentioned, is identity verification, which can be completed online or by visiting what's called a local registration authority, or LRA for short. Now, obviously, completing that online is going to be easier, potentially. But even if you try to complete that online, for example, and you're unable to for whatever reason, you always can go to that local registration authority. And there should be, I think they try to make the local registration authorities pretty close. Now, the Digital Identity Verification Questionnaire for online identity verification does use United States-based background and or identity information. So if you don't have sufficient U.S.-based background identity information, then you will need to verify your identity in person at an LRA, or a local registration authority. Basically, the digital identity verification will require you to answer a series of questions about your background and personal identity. You'll have 2 attempts to correctly answer those questions. They do not run a credit check of any sort, but if you're successful, you will be granted that eAuthentication Level 2 account access, which will then allow you to request a role within the ezFedGrants. Again, please keep in mind that if you're unable to complete the questionnaire, maybe you try it twice and you make a mistake both times for whatever reason, or maybe the system is down and you can't access it for whatever reason. Again, if you're unable to complete that questionnaire, you will be required to verify your identity in person at a local registration authority office. And the way that you can find one would be to go to the eAuthentication home screen, and in the upper right-hand corner there should be a link or some text that says Find an LRA. And once you go ahead and click on that, it's just going to take you to the USDA Service Center Locator site. And that site should look like this, where it's essentially just a map of the United States. So on the USDA Service Center Locator site, you basically just want to click the state that you're located in. So for example, if I'm located in the state of Pennsylvania, I'm just going to go ahead and click on the state of Pennsylvania. And once I do that, it will then take me to the local registration authority locations page for my state, in this instance, Pennsylvania, for example. To make an appointment, you just call the service center nearest to you. On the day of your appointment, you'll need to bring at least one form of government-issued photo ID and the email address that you use to register your account. I would say that when you call the service center to make your appointment, you may just want to verify with them what they want you to bring, just to make sure that you don't, forget something accidentally, or that you just, verify that you have everything that they're going to require. But it should be ID and the email address that you use to sign up for your account. And once the LRA has completed your registration, or you have verified your identity digitally online, you should then receive an email confirming that you now have a USDA eAuthentication Level 2 account, and then you would be able to enter in your username and password to go ahead and access that. And that essentially is the process for getting that eAuthentication account. Again, it is necessary so that they can verify that you are who you say you are. It should make things more secure, for your organization to, allow people to, get access to financial data for your organization. So it's really just intended to make things a lot safer and to make sure that, Joe Schmo off the street, for example, is accessing your organization's grants registration. Once you get that eAuthentication account, then you can actually go into the ezFedGrants system and request an account through there. So really, it's kind of, again, a two-step process. First need eAuthentication access, and then need ezFedGrants access, which is what we're going to talk about.